In 2002, a single decision destroyed $99 billion in shareholder value, the largest annual corporate loss in American history. 3 years later, a German automaker would pay $30 billion to escape a merger it called a match made in heaven, and in 2015, an engineering shortcut would cost one company $65 billion and 11 human lives. These aren't cautionary tales. They're autopsies of empires. Every year, Fortune 500 companies collectively lose hundreds of billions through avoidable mistakes. Not market crashes. Not force majeure. Decisions made by intelligent people in expensive suits, backed by armies of consultants. The scale is staggering because modern corporations operate with asymmetric leverage. A CEO's bad quarter can erase a decade of shareholder gains. A botched acquisition can bankrupt a century-old institution. And when hubris meets complexity, the results are biblical. What follows isn't a greatest hits compilation. It's a pattern recognition exercise. Because the same mistakes, dressed in different industries and decades, keep destroying value at industrial scale. January 2000. Steve Case, CEO of AOL, announces a $164 billion merger with Time Warner, the largest deal in corporate history. The logic seemed perfect. Combine AOL's internet dominance with Time Warner's content empire. The misjudgment. Case valued AOL at its dot-com bubble peak, roughly $160 billion, assuming growth rates that defied gravity. Time Warner's CEO Gerald Levin believed old media needed salvation through digital. Both were catastrophically wrong. Within 2 years, 3 things collapsed simultaneously. The dot-com bubble burst, obliterating online ad revenue. AOL's dial-up model became obsolete with broadband. Culture clash paralyzed integration. Tech startup meets legacy media. In 2002, AOL Time Warner announced a $54 billion goodwill write-down, then the largest in history. Over 2 years, total losses exceeded $99 billion. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $170 billion today. The lesson: valuation discipline disappears at market peaks. Case and Levin bet the company on momentum, not fundamentals. They acquired using inflated stock as currency, financial alchemy that vaporized when reality returned. October 2007. Fred Goodwin, CEO of Royal Bank of Scotland, leads a consortium to acquire Dutch bank ABN Amro for $100 billion, paying a 70% premium over share price. This was peak financial euphoria. Banks were competing to become global champions. Goodwin, nicknamed Fred the Shred for aggressive cost-cutting, wanted to create a European megabank. The fatal flaw: due diligence was shockingly thin. RBS didn't get full access to ABN's books before bidding. They assumed real estate and trading exposures were manageable. Timing was worse. The deal closed weeks before credit markets froze in 2008. The bill, ABN's toxic assets, amplified RBS's crisis exposure. Within months, the UK government injected $71 billion to prevent collapse, one of history's largest bank rescues. An official investigation concluded the acquisition was the wrong price, wrong way to pay, wrong timing. Goodwin was stripped of his knighthood. Taxpayers are still recovering losses. The pattern: overconfidence at cycle peaks, inadequate risk analysis, boardroom groupthink. When everyone's doing megadeals, questioning the strategy becomes career suicide. April 20th, 2010. The Deepwater Horizon drilling rig, operating in 5,000 feet of Gulf water, explodes. 11 workers die. The wellhead hemorrhages oil for 87 days, 4.9 million barrels, the largest marine spill in U.S. history. The root cause: cost pressure and schedule delays led to shortcuts. BP chose a riskier well design to save time. They ignored warning signs from pressure tests. They lacked adequate blowout prevention systems. By 2018, BP's total costs reached $65 billion, $14 billion in cleanup, $20 billion to restore Gulf ecosystems, $20+ billion in legal settlements, $4 billion in criminal fines, and incalculable brand damage. Former CEO Tony Hayward, who infamously said "I'd like my life back" during the crisis, was forced out. BP's market cap fell by nearly half. The deeper truth: risk management is an accounting line item until it's not. BP saved maybe $10 million with cheaper well designs. That economy destroyed $65 billion and permanently scarred a 100-year-old brand. Engineering firms still teach Deepwater as the definitive case study in operational hubris. September 2015. The EPA discovers Volkswagen installed defeat devices in 11 million diesel vehicles. software that detected emissions tests and temporarily reduced pollution output. On real roads, cars emitted up to 40 times legal limits. The psychology, VW had set impossible targets: build diesel engines that were powerful, fuel efficient, and met strict US emission standards. Engineers couldn't do it. Instead of admitting failure, they cheated. By 2020, total Dieselgate expenses reached €31.3 billion, $34 billion, $14.7 billion in US settlements alone, $10+ billion in European fines and buybacks, and billions more in lost sales and legal fees. CEO Martin Winterkorn resigned. Multiple executives faced criminal charges. VW's clean diesel marketing became a punchline. The structural failure: this wasn't rogue engineers, it was cultural. Aggressive targets, weak oversight, and a German engineering culture that prized perfection over transparency. When performance became impossible, deception became policy. Modern parallel: replace emissions tests with earnings guidance or AI capabilities, and you see identical incentive structures today. Pressure to meet unrealistic targets still drives systemic corner cutting. 2007, Nokia holds 49.4% of global smartphone market share, the undisputed leader. 2013, Nokia's share has collapsed to 3%. Symbian couldn't compete with iOS and Android. A desperate partnership with Microsoft fails. September 2013, Microsoft buys Nokia's handset business for $7.2 billion, believing they can still win mobile. The delusion: Microsoft thought money could solve an ecosystem problem. They had the third best mobile OS in a two-platform world. Buying Nokia didn't change that fundamental reality. 6 recurring patterns emerge. 1. Peak cycle hubris. RBS and AOL executed megadeals at market tops, when asset prices and confidence were maximum, judgment minimum. 2. Integration blindness. Daimler Chrysler, AOL Time Warner, HP Autonomy, all assumed culture and systems would just merge. They never do without obsessive planning. 3. Ignoring weak signals. Nokia engineers warned leadership about iOS. BP engineers flagged pressure anomalies. VW engineers knew emissions targets were impossible. Hierarchy silenced dissent. 4. Misaligned incentives. When executives are rewarded for quarterly results or deal volume, long-term risk becomes someone else's problem. 5. Complexity as shield. Enron's fraud, RBS's exposures, VW's cheating, all hid behind complexity. Too complicated to explain often means too dangerous to examine. 6. The sunk cost spiral. Microsoft kept funding Windows Phone for years after it was obvious. Kodak bled film profits for a decade. Admitting failure is harder than continuing failure. These patterns haven't disappeared, they've migrated. Today's equivalent risks: AI companies burning billions on compute with no revenue model, SBACs merging companies at unsustainable valuations, founder-controlled boards where governance is theater, and regulatory arbitrage in crypto, gig economy, social media. The tools change. The mistakes don't. The common thread isn't intelligence. Every person in these stories was brilliant, credentialed, experienced. The common thread is certainty. AOL was certain the internet revolution justified any price. RBS was certain global expansion was destiny. BP was certain operational risk was manageable. VW was certain they wouldn't get caught. Certainty, when divorced from evidence and humility, doesn't just destroy companies. It vaporizes billions. The question isn't whether the next catastrophic mistake is coming. It's whether we'll recognize the pattern before the write-down. Subscribe to Power Protocol for more such videos.